Welcome to Tech News Briefing. It's Monday, July 31st. I'm Zoe Thomas for the Wall Street Journal. When it comes to gun safety, safes and lockboxes are often the tools of choice. But those could be made obsolete by a new type of weapon, the smart gun. A startup called Biofire is getting ready to release what would be the first widely available smart gun. Proponents say this kind of gun could reduce accidental shootings and firearm thefts, but gun rights advocates have their concerns. Zusha Elinson wrote about this, and he joins me now. Zusha, tell me briefly, what makes a gun smart?
A smart gun is a gun that can only be fired by an authorized user, and the idea goes back to some pretty famous sci-fi movies. And then the idea began to take shape in reality as various gun companies started looking into the idea in the 1990s. And the argument for these guns was that it could prevent accidental shootings by children. Say a parent wants to have their gun at home, right? A kid could pick it up if they leave it out and shoot someone, or God forbid themselves. But if you have a smart gun, the idea was, well, they wouldn't be able to do that. There's also the added benefit, proponents would say, that thieves would be less interested in stealing smart guns because they couldn't use them. So there's a host of problems that this idea is trying to get at.
Tell me a little bit about the company Biofire. You don't hear very often about gun tech startups.
There's a reason for that. After the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting, there's a venture capitalist by the name of Ron Conway, who's also very civic-minded, and he really put his mind to developing a smart gun. He wanted to bring this technology into the world, and he started a foundation that funded a bunch of smart gun companies, but very few made it, and very few were able to find funding in Silicon Valley. But eventually, there was one kid who made it through and got a bunch of VC funding, and his name was Kai Klupfer, and he has a little company called Biofire. And he's been doing this since he was a teenager. He came up with the idea in his garage. And now, finally, he's gotten to the point where he's taking pre-orders for this smart gun. And what it's developed into is a gun that recognizes the user either by a fingerprint or by a little camera that uses facial recognition. And so his idea is that if your finger is wet or dirty and the fingerprint reader doesn't work, that the face recognition camera will work.
You said Biofire is taking pre-orders. When is the gun expected to come out?
So they tell us that the gun's going to ship in December and that people who ordered it will receive it in January or later. So far, they say they've got thousands of pre-orders. It's going to be interesting to see if this really catches on. So the long history of the smart gun is that there's been several attempts to bring one to market, and they have all failed dramatically and disastrously. So going back to the 90s, you had Colt, which is one of the biggest gun companies in the country, and they came out with a smart gun. They got boycotted by gun owners. Why was that? Gun owners are very suspicious of this technology. And they're suspicious because they are afraid that politicians will mandate it. And indeed, their fears were realized in 2002 when New Jersey said once smart gun technology is available, all handguns sold in New Jersey have to have it.
How has Biofire reacted to those requirements?
They have opposed government mandates for this technology. So, for instance, the New Jersey law has since been changed, and now there's a commission that reviews smart guns in New Jersey, and they say, if we like it, then it will be stocked in all stores. Now, Biofire says we're not going to even submit this to this commission, and that's got them in the good graces of pro-gun groups.
Did you speak to anyone who plans to purchase this smart gun?
Yeah, we spoke to a Florida commercial real estate broker, and he is one of the thousands who has pre-ordered this gun. He said he was interested in it because of the safety features. He currently keeps a .40 caliber handgun in a safe by his bed, but he thought if this thing works out okay, he would get rid of the safe and just have the smart gun because it could only be used by him.
So what makes Biofire different from smart gun makers that have come before?
The biggest difference so far is that Biofire has a lot more venture funding behind it. The other thing that it has going for it is that there's been enough talk about smart guns for so many years that there's been more acceptance that it's okay if they're in the market. Johns Hopkins did a study of gun owners, and 8 in 10 said they're fine if there's a smart gun on the market. But interestingly enough, only 2 in 10 said they would buy one.
Overall, is the release of Biofire's smart gun expected to have a big impact on gun safety?
There were studies many years ago that showed that a good percentage of accidental shootings could be prevented by a technology like this. One study put it at 37%. But in the years since, we've seen a sort of different answer to that question. Johns Hopkins, in that same survey I was speaking about a second ago, they found that people who already use a lot of safety measures with their firearms were 50% more likely to buy a smart gun. And so there's a question of whether the people buying these smart guns are, they're already being as safe as they possibly can, so it might have limited impact.
That was WSJ reporter Zusha Elinson. And that's it for today's Tech News Briefing. If you want more tech stories, check out our website, WSJ.com. I'm Zoe Thomas for the Wall Street Journal. Thanks for listening.